Rain turned the streets of Bologna into smeared neon, the porticoes shining like wet marble under the emergency lights as the ambulance screeched into Maggiore Hospital. Dr. Ida Kovac pushed through the sliding doors, still pulling on her gloves, the metallic stink of disinfectant and blood already in her nose. Investito, trauma cranico, possible hemorrhagia interna, the paramedics shouted as they rolled the stretcher in. Hit by a car, head trauma, possible internal bleeding. The man on the stretcher looked out of place in his torn grey suit. 50-something, expensive haircut now matted with blood, white shirt soaked through. Someone had tried to cut the clothes off in the ambulance. The fabric still clung stubbornly to his chest. "Signore, mi sente?" Ida leaned over him, flashlight in one hand. His pupils reacted, sluggish. "Name?" "Soddermi il suo nome." His lips moved, but produced only a wet hiss. "Blood pressure 80/40, the nurse called. "Heartbeat irregular. 2 units O negative subito," Ida said. "Prep for CT. Let's move." They pushed the stretcher down the corridor. Night shift was always a blur. Drug overdoses from the university, drunk scooters, the occasional stabbing, but something about this one needled under her skin. The paramedic's voice had trembled when he'd said who they thought the man was. "Lo riconosci?" he'd asked, wide-eyed. "Do you recognize him?" She had, vaguely. From newspaper photos in the break room, headlines about anti-mafia investigations. A magistrate from Milan, seconded to Bologna for a special task force. Judge Paolo Ferri. The kind of man who made enemies you never saw, only felt. In Trauma 1, Ida cut away the rest of his suit. Bruising spread like spilled ink across his abdomen. She palpated gently and felt the rigid resistance of internal bleeding. "Fast positive," the resident murmured, ultrasound probe slick with gel. "He needs the ore now," Ida said. "Call vascular and cardiothoracic. And—" Ferry's hand shot up, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. His eyes snapped into focus, wild, terrified. "San Luca," he whispered, voice cracking. "File in." He coughed, scarlet blooming over his lips. "In where?" Ida bent close. "Signore, Dove?" "Portico. Ventidue," he rasped. "Domani. Loro, sano." His grip slackened. The heart monitor shrieked into a jagged line. "V-fib," the nurse shouted. "He's crashing." "Defibrillator," Ida snapped. 200 joules. "Clear." His body jumped on the bed. The line dipped, trembled, then flattened. "Again," she said. They shocked him twice more. Nothing. The monitor hummed its thin, merciless tone. After 12 minutes, someone muttered, "E finita." Ida looked at the clock, then at the still form on the bed. Just another dead body, she told herself. Sign the paper, move on. Night shift swallowed everyone eventually. Time of death, 0:43, she said quietly. They zipped him into a black bag. The torn grey suit lay on a stainless steel tray, blood still dripping in slow, sticky beads. Ida peeled off her gloves and tossed them away, aware of the tremor in her fingers. "San Luca," she murmured, tasting the name. It was a basilica on the hill, overlooking Bologna like a patient saint. Portico Ventidue, one of almost 400 archways climbing toward it. Domani, tomorrow, and loro, them. Whoever they were, Judge Ferry had believed they would know. And that was the part that stayed with her when she went to wash the blood from her arms and saw, in the mirror above the sink, that she was still shaking. She dried her hands, listening to the distant siren of a police car, and realized the night outside had gone unnaturally, dangerously quiet suddenly. By the time Aida's shift ended, the sky above Bologna had turned from black to the bruised purple that meant dawn was close. She changed into jeans and a black sweater, stuffed her scrubs into the locker, and tried to ignore the magistrate's name echoing in her skull. On her way out, she bumped into Matteo from radiology, holding a coffee that smelled like burnt rubber. "Hi, Santito?" he asked. "About Ferry?" She forced a neutral shrug. "Car accident. Happens. Non così," Matteo said, lowering his voice. "Polizia said the road was dry. No skid marks. The car just hit him, then disappeared. They're checking cameras." Ida felt a chill thread down her spine. People drive like idiots. Matteo smiled thinly. Not when they're running over a judge. Outside, the air bit at her damp hair. Bologna's porticoes sheltered her from the drizzle as she walked, footsteps echoing against centuries-old stone. The city was waking up, bakery shutters rattling open, espresso machines hissing, the smell of fresh cornetti competing with diesel Portico Ventador. She hadn't intended to go. She should have gone home, collapsed into bed, forgotten the dying words of a stranger. Doctors heard all kinds of nonsense at the edge of death. Confessions, hallucinations, wild religious visions. Instead, her route curved, almost on its own, toward Via Saragozza, the beginning of the long climb to San Luca. The portico colonnade rose before her, an endless arcade of arches marching up the hill. Each arch was numbered. She found Ventador stamped into the stone, weathered but clear. Just another arch. Just another patch of shadow. She stood there, feeling absurd. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. A scooter buzzed past, its engine whining. A jogger ran by with headphones in, breath clouding in the cold air. No secret conspirators, no lurking hitmen. Just Bologna being Bologna. Ida exhaled and turned to leave. That was when she saw the envelope wedged behind the base of the column, half hidden by a discarded lottery ticket and a cigarette butt. Cream-colored, thick paper. Her name written in neat, sharp handwriting. Ida Kovac. Her stomach dropped. She glanced around reflexively. No one was looking at her. No black cars idling. No men in dark coats. She pulled the envelope free with numb fingers. The flap wasn't sealed. Inside was a single USB drive wrapped in folded printer paper. On the paper, 3 lines in the same precise hand. Non consoner alla polizia locale, circa ilpem Nicola Rossi, derision distrettuale antimafia, and necessarily not give to local police. Find prosecutor Nicola Rossi, anti-mafia district directorate. Trust no one else. Her pulse pounded at her temples. She looked up and down the portico again. The jogger was gone. A stray dog sniffed at an overflowing trash bin, ignoring her completely. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, calm down." It could be a prank, she told herself. Someone from the hospital who'd seen her name badge. Some twisted joke. But the handwriting, the formal titles, the timing. She slid the USB drive into her pocket, the plastic suddenly heavy as lead. When she got off at her stop, a dark blue car she didn't recognize was parked opposite her building. Engine off. Windows tinted. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. She walked past casually, key between her fingers, the way self-defense videos had taught her. At the door, she risked a glance back. The car's headlights flared to life. The engine turned over. It pulled away slowly, as if it had just remembered another appointment somewhere else. She felt watched. The USB drive sat on her kitchen table between an empty espresso cup and a bowl crusted with yesterday's pasta sauce. Ida stared at it like it might grow teeth. Her apartment was a narrow rectangle above a tobacco, the faint smell of tobacco leaking through the floorboards. Outside, Vespers rattled past, and someone argued in rapid-fire dialect in the street. Life went on, indifferent. "Okay," she told the drive. "Let's see what you are." She plugged it into her laptop. For a second, nothing happened. Then a single folder appeared on the screen. Luca. Her mouth went dry. Inside the folder were subfolders named with dates and places. Ravenna, Medina, Rimini. Dozens of PDF files and scans. Bank transfer records. Container numbers. Names linked by red arrows in scan charts. The handwriting identical to the note in the envelope. Toxicology reports. She opened one at random. It was from a small hospital near Ferrara, about a cluster of leukemia cases in children living near an industrial site. The conclusion was cautious, almost apologetic. Possible environmental exposure. Further study recommended. Ferry's handwritten note in the margin read, in Italian, dumping confirmed. See photos. Waste from Calabria companies. Track trucks via GPS. Contact source, Lupo. She clicked through more files. Satellite images of trucks at night, their tarps bulging. Photos of barrels stacked in abandoned warehouses. Labels in faded lettering. Solventi, pesticidi, materiale speciale. Special material. These records showed something else. Waste moving the other way. From companies with addresses in Reggio Calabria to sites in Emilia-Romagna. Near rivers, near farmland, near small towns where nobody asked questions. And another note, underlined twice. Dealers use hospital ambulances for night transport. Unregistered transfers, falsified routes. Check Maggiore logs. Maggiore. Her hospital. Ida sat back, heart thudding. Murder, she whispered. Someone had been using the hospital's ambulances, her colleagues' vehicles, her colleagues' shifts, to move toxic waste at night, doctored into the system as emergency transfers or scheduled inter-hospital transfers. If Ferry had traced that, it made sense someone would want him dead. Her phone buzzed, a known number. She almost ignored it. Instead, she swiped to answer, pulse leaping. Pronto. SSA Kovac? A male voice, controlled, mid-30s maybe. Mi chiamo Nicola Rossi. We need to talk. She swallowed. How did you get my number? Judge Ferry had it in his files, under emergency contacts, Rossi said. You treated him last night. I'm outside your building. Ida froze. You're what? Don't be alarmed. I'm alone. A pause. And I'm exposed, standing here. May I come up, or will you come down? She muted the call and went to the window. Below, the street looked normal. Delivery trucks, a cyclist weaving between cars. Then she saw him, a man in a navy overcoat, no tie, short dark hair, holding his phone to his ear and looking straight at her building's buzzer panel. Wave if that's you, she said, unmuting. He glanced up, as if sensing the movement, and raised his free hand slightly. She cursed under her breath. If this was a trap, it was a very patient one. Secondo piano, she said. Door on the left. When she opened the apartment door, he was already in the corridor, breathing a little harder from the stairs. He held up his hands, palms empty. Nothing in my pockets except my badge and my car keys, he said, as if reading her mind. He produced both slowly. The badge looked real. Anti-mafia prosecutor, Bologna. His photo, his name. Nicola Rossi. Can I come in? He asked. Ida stepped aside reluctantly. If you try anything, I know where all the sharp objects are, she said. For the first time, his face cracked into a brief, tired smile. After last night, Dottoressa, I'd be surprised if you didn't. The pattern was impossible to ignore. They boarded the evening train to Rome with a single small backpack between them. No files, no laptop, just Rossi's badge and the USB drive now sitting in Aida's inside pocket like contraband. Roma Termini at 23:20, Rossi said, checking his watch. We walk straight across the street to the Divisione Nazionale Anti-Mafia offices. No taxis, no detours. And if someone is waiting at the station? Ida asked. Then we improvise, he said. But once the data is inside their system, killing us only creates paperwork. The carriage was half full. Businessmen with loosened ties, tourists with guidebooks, a nun knitting in serene silence. Outside, Emilia-Romagna flattened into dark fields blurred by rain. Ida tried to read, failed, and ended up watching their reflections in the window. Rossi looked tired rather than heroic. Faint stubble, shadows under his eyes, tie askew. He was not the kind of man action movies were made about. That comforted her more than it should have. Half an hour after departure, Rossi stopped pretending to work. "Third row behind us, aisle seat," he murmured, keeping his eyes on his phone. "Leather jacket, short hair." He got on at the last second and hasn't opened his bag. Ida shifted slightly, using the smudged glass as a mirror. The man looked like anyone else, but his gaze kept coming back to their row, never quite landing, never quite leaving. "Maybe he likes your hair," she muttered. Rossi wasn't amused. "When Forenza comes, we move to the cafe car," he said softly. "More people, better cameras. If they want to grab us, it will be harder there." The announcement about Florence crackled overhead. Passengers gathered their things. Leatherjacket stayed seated at Santa Maria Novella. The train filled. Ida saw two more men in plain dark jackets take separate seats a few rows away. No luggage. No books. Just watchful eyes. Rossi gathered his jacket. "Cafe?" he asked aloud. "Only if you're paying," she said, trying to sound normal. They walked down the aisle. No one stopped them, but she felt gazes brush over her like fingers. In the narrow space between carriages, Rossi leaned close. "Give me the USB," he said. She hesitated. "You said I shouldn't let it out of my sight." "Right now, you are the easiest target," he replied. "If they search us, they expect it on you. Let me be wrong, but not predictable." She handed it over, fingers reluctant. He slipped it into his wallet without looking. The cafe car was bright and almost cheerful. A small TV without sound showed a football match. A bored barista wiped already clean surfaces. A child cried until his mother pointed at the window and whispered about monsters in the dark that only went after noisy kids. Rossi ordered 2 espressos. While the barista's back was turned, he bent low and spoke quickly. "When I walk to that end door, someone will follow," he said. "You stay by the counter. If anything happens, grab the barista's phone and call the number on this card." He slid a business card onto the metal counter. It had an official seal and a direct line to an internal affairs office. "You're assuming he believes me," Ida said. "He will if somebody bleeds," Rossi answered. Leatherjacket appeared at the far end of the car, walking slowly, pretending to read the menu above the counter. One of the Florence men entered behind him, stopping near the door they had just used. They were boxed in outside. The train roared on, indifferent to whoever would fall next.